What happens regularly that would horrify a person from 100 years ago? I am light-skinned and my husband is a white boy. My sister, when she met him, pulled him aside and said, "You realize that this is exactly what the whites wanted, right? For us to interracially marry until it unalived the Indian and saved the man?" And his mother-in-law was even worse than my sister. When I first met her, I immediately realized she was overbearing over my husband and seemed to prefer him over his 4 siblings. I guess it's because he's the only boy, but even though he's 38, she still referred to him as her little man. She claims to be this devout Christian, but she is one of the most bigoted people I know based on all of the awful racist and homophobic things she shares on Facebook. As I mentioned earlier, every time I saw my mother-in-law when my husband and I first started dating, she made a point to make subtle racist remarks. The very first time I met her, she put her hand in my hair and said, "Oh God, what is all this?" My husband would always defend me and even raise his voice at her, but it's like him defending me made her hate me more. My husband finally had enough when we were at a family party one day and she started bringing up one of his white exes in front of me. She started comparing the ex's looks to mine and then looked at me, shook her head and said, "Such a shame my husband's name would end up with someone like that." My husband had been part of another conversation but walked in to catch the tail end of what she was saying and totally erupted. He told her that he had enough of her racist bullshit and that I was the woman that he was going to love for the rest of his life, but every time he saw her she gave him reasons to love her less. He grabbed my hand and we walked out of that family party. He hadn't spoken to her in about a year and a half. I knew it was a sore spot when we started planning our wedding, but eventually, I told him that I would be totally fine with him inviting her. I love my husband and I just want him to be happy, so I told him that his mom really should be there just by her awfulness. I didn't want him to regret anything. My husband was very hesitant about the whole idea. He told me that he didn't believe she could change, but of course he did want his mom at his wedding. He said he wouldn't send her an invite, but he would text her and ask if we invited her. Would she be on her best behavior? I agreed with my husband's wishes and sat with him as he reached out to his mom. He sent her one text that sounded exactly like what he told me he was going to say, just asking her if she could be kind and cordial for one day and that he really did want her at the wedding. My husband's face fell when she responded, and I was pretty shocked at how bold she was being. I guess she felt more comfortable being openly racist since she didn't realize I was reading the text over my husband's shoulder. His mom first texted back that she could certainly come and behave for one day if I could make myself look respectable for once. I just looked at my husband, who looked like he wanted to cry, and then another text came in. His mom had then said that she would only be attending if I could straighten my hair, and that if she walked in and I looked like I was still from the jungle she would walk right out. My husband didn't reply, and as soon as we were done reading he just went to her contact and blocked her. We both cried in each other's arms and he just kept apologizing over and over that I even had to read that. He said that he never wanted to see her again and I was his future and his whole life, and he wasn't letting anybody disrespect me, whether they were blood or not.